Ariel, listen to me. The human world, it's a mess.
Hi guys, it's Izzy, and if you didn't already know, I'm trying to branch out on the types of videos I make on my channel. So I've started doing a few mystery videos, a couple of ghost videos, and now I want to start covering stuff that I love so much, which is fairy tales and folklores and stuff like that. Because if you didn't already know, pretty much every single Disney film is based on a story that already exists. Apart from, they're a lot darker than the way Disney makes them. So, you know, I'm just out here just to ruin people's childhoods and just to ruin Disney for people. My friend here on YouTube, Coral Francis, she is Disney obsessed, so this might not be the series for her. Now in today's video I'm going to start off with my favourite fairy tale of all times, which is The Little Mermaid. And when I was researching this, I was just so fascinated because it's just so different from the story that you're told as a child about little Ariel and Sebastian under the sea. So I've got my gigantic laptop here. I should start making notes on my phone for these types of videos because I'm just sat here with a giant laptop on me. But you know, all my notes, I'm going to try and be as factual as possible. How intellectual am I? So the story of The Little Mermaid was originally a Danish tale that was published in 1837 by Hans Christian Andersen. He was quite a popular author, he wrote other bangers such as The Snow Queen and Thumbelina, you know. But because these aren't Walt Disney stories, they are quite a bit darker. So the story starts when The Little Mermaid was about 10 years old. And something I want to note is that I don't think she was called Ariel. In fact, I don't think she actually had a name. I couldn't find the name of the mermaid in the original story at all, so I'm assuming she doesn't have one. She's just referred to as the Little Mermaid. So in the ocean there's the grandmother, the Sea Queen, the widowed father, the Mer King, and then there are 6 granddaughters. But the youngest was the most beautiful of them all, and you guessed it, that was the one that this story is about. Now the Little Mermaid was fascinated about the human world. Her grandmother used to tell her stories about ships that used to pass and just how humans used to live, and she was just fascinated about them. Apart from, mermaids aren't allowed to go to the surface of the ocean and see this for themselves until they're 15 years old. So on her 15th birthday, you guessed it, she goes to the surface of the ocean for the first time and sits on a rock, and she watches a birthday party be thrown for a prince. And this party's happening on a ship, hence why she can see it. However, rather tragically, a storm hits and it sinks the ship. The mermaid can see the prince who she's been watching all evening long, and she's fallen in love with him, you know, classic bit of love at first sight there. And she doesn't want him to drown, obviously, so she goes and saves him. Apart from, he falls unconscious. She rescues him and puts him by the shore of a temple. Now this is where the story turns a bit sad, because the Little Mermaid was still watching the prince, and she was watching from a distance, and then a beautiful woman came out of the temple and he became conscious again, and he just assumes that it's this beautiful woman from the temple that saved him, so he starts to fall in love with this woman. The Little Mermaid is heartbroken because obviously she can't go over to him and say, "Hi, it's me that saved you." And she goes back into the ocean and starts to ask her grandmother what would have happened if she didn't save. Her grandmother explains that humans have a much shorter lifespan than mermaids, who can typically live to about 300 years in this story. Apart from, when humans die, they have an eternal soul which goes to heaven after they die. But mermaids don't have this eternal soul, so once they die, they just turn to sea foam. The Little Mermaid, who has now fallen in love with the prince and is on a mission to find an eternal soul, goes to a sea witch because she too wants to become human. And I found a quote from the original story which I find is quite funny. Basically, she knows that she needs to be a human for the prince to fall in love with her because, and I quote, "humans think their fishtails are ugly." It's just a nice way of wording it, isn't it, that? So the mermaid finds the witch, who agrees to turn her into a human. Apart from, this isn't a very good deal. In fact, it's a lot worse than it is in the Disney film as well. So in the Disney film, the sea witch agrees to do this, but in return for her voice, because supposedly she's got the most beautiful voice in all the ocean. Apart from in the original story, she gives her voice by having her tongue cut out. Ouch. And the sea witch gives her this potion which will turn her human, and if the prince falls in love with her, she will live happily ever after and have an eternal soul. However, if the prince falls in love with someone else and decides to marry her, the morning after their wedding, she will cease to exist and just turn into sea foam, which, to be fair, is relatable because that sounds like me when my crush has a crush on someone else. So then she swims to the surface of the ocean and drinks this potion by the prince's palace, and she actually passes out from the pain of the potion because she doesn't just magically grow a tail, oh no. What happens to her is it feels like there is a sword cutting her tail in half, so she gets 2 legs, and every step that she takes feels like she is walking on knives. So it's not just a matter of, oh, she's got legs now, it's extreme agony for her. The prince then actually finds her out on the beach and is stunned by her beauty and wants to get to know her, apart from, oh yeah, remember, she's got no voice. However, this doesn't stop the prince wanting to get to know her, and he takes her out on activities and he thinks that she's a really good friend. But because he can't really get to know her properly, he kind of friend zones her. But the princess is still so in love with him. They love doing activities together, so the prince takes her horse riding, and one of his favourite activities to do with her is to take her dancing, which again causes her extreme agony, but because she's so in love with the prince, she just does it anyway. Then after a while, the prince's parents really encourage him to marry the princess from the neighbouring town, or the neighbouring kingdom, or whatever. However, the prince doesn't want to do this, and he's sort of stressing out, so he tells the Little Mermaid, and he confides in her and tells her that he's in love. He's in love with the beautiful girl from the temple, because he assumes that it was her that saved her life, and obviously the mermaid's got no voice, so she can't explain that it was actually her that saved him. And yeah, so she just sadly has to see him fall in love with someone else because there's nothing she can do to stop it. But then, luckily for the prince, it turns out that the girl from the temple was the princess from the neighbouring village, because she was sent to the temple for education by her parents. So the prince is like, oh great, perfect, and they actually get married, and the Little Mermaid attends the wedding, and they're having the wedding ceremony on a boat, and she's just sort of accepted that she's gonna die. So she goes to take one last look at the ocean before the sun rises in the morning, and she will turn to sea foam. Apart from when she's looking over to the sea, she can see her 5 sisters. Apart from, none of them have got hair, and it turns out they cut their hair off in exchange for a knife from the sea witch. And they did this in order to save the Little Mermaid's life, because it turns out that the sea witch has given them a knife to give to the Little Mermaid, and if she stabs the prince in the heart and has his blood go on her legs, then she will get a tail again, and she'll be able to live out the rest of her 300 years in the ocean and join her sisters again. So all her sisters are like, come on, just do it, join us again. However, the Little Mermaid, being so in love with the prince and seeing how happy he is with his new bride, she just can't bring herself to do it. So in the morning, she just has accepted her fate that she is going to turn to sea foam, so she jumps off the end of the boat or ship, and instead of turning to foam and ceasing to exist, she actually notices that she's turned to air. And she has been informed that she's turned to a daughter of the air by other daughters of the air. Because she saved the prince's life, she's actually been given a chance to get an eternal soul if she follows the rest of the daughters of the air for the next 300 years, and then yes, she will get a soul. The Little Mermaid did good deeds for the next 300 years alongside of the other daughters of the air, and she became the first ever mermaid to rise above the stars because she got a soul. So yeah, that was the true story of the Little Mermaid. As you can tell, it's a bit darker than the original story, and she didn't get the prince in the end and didn't live happily ever after with the prince, but you know what, it was still a happy ending in the end because she got the soul that she actually always wanted. So let me know in the comments what you thought of the original story, whether you think it's happy, whether you think it's sad, and also let me know if you want me to cover any other Disney stories or any other folklore tales or anything like that, because I love researching them, and I hope that you've enjoyed watching. I make new videos every single Wednesday about just different topics really, so I hope that you've enjoyed watching, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!
The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake. You dream about going up there, but that is a big mistake. Just look at the world around you, right here on the ocean floor. Such wonderful things around you. What more are you looking for? Under the sea, under the sea.